children learn, but rarely children would get their instruction from an in-person teacher, and there was very rare distance interaction. But somehow Sesame Street made learning sticky, or make learning stick. And we see where Sesame Street to this day, it's still successful. I have 3 children ranging from many ages, and I was exposed to Sesame Street, and they were exposed to Sesame Street, and my grandchildren will be exposed to Sesame Street, because it was just one of those success stories of, you know, the research and the fact finding, and, you know, finding out how children learn and producing Sesame Street. But as I find it, as a nation, as a region, we have mostly been stuck with a teacher-centered instructionism approach to teaching, unfortunately. And so we tend to teach how we are comfortable, and we tend to teach sometimes how we think, and we don't necessarily keep in mind what the student experience is. We cling to control of our classroom, but ladies and gentlemen, if gentlemen are here, the world has changed, and the truth is our children have changed. So I'm going to go deep into it. And how can you make virtual learning stick? First of all, we have to have a profile of our complex learners. So you have to take the time to learn about your students before starting any learning program. Save your student and yourself the heartache. It is worth the time to take an inventory of the individual student. First, you have to determine if they're independent, requiring partial support, or requiring full support. My experience, as I was introduced, is with students with autism. Those are the special learners that I service. So this presentation is going to gear a lot to teaching children with moderate cognitive impairments and social impairments. It won't cover anything about mobility. So that's the boundaries of the presentation today. So I'm sorry if you have profound students. This presentation will not touch on students with profound cognitive disabilities. All right, so I'm talking about mild to moderate cognitive learners. All right, so what you want to do is to determine if they're independent, requiring partial support or full support. And so that will tell you how you will engage with the caregiver at home, because I'm assuming that you have a caregiver at home that you work through virtually. And some of my students, online students, are independent, and they're able to handle the virtual learning, I mean, without hiccups. I mean, I'm amazed at their skills that they've developed so quickly. So you have to determine that, so you know how you're going to engage with the student, or you're going to engage with whatever caregiver is supporting the child. Okay. So conduct a range of assessments to identify learning gaps, including investigating their literacy skills, including decoding skills, their reading level, using an informal running record, and their that's supposed to be reading comprehension, I'm sorry. Reading comprehension skills, of course, their numeracy skills. So what are some general unique what's a general unique learning profile of students with cognitive and neurological impairments? This is a general assessment, because we have students who are, you know, especially the autism spectrum, it's so wide, and you have varying disabilities cognitively across the spectrum. And so this is just a generalization. It doesn't bear true for every child, but definitely these are the things that we will see happening over and over again, like poor decoding skills and reading fluency, slow reading rate. So they're able to call the words, but it's so slow and it's without any inflection or any expression. So that's typical of our students with cognitive and neurological impairments. Lack of self-monitoring as they read, poor comprehension and retention, difficulty identifying important ideas in context, extreme difficulty building ideas and images, just not having the cognitive structures on which they can build ideas and, imagine, like it's very, if I can't, I won't be very successful if I ask my children with disabilities to imagine if, because so for some of them, it's beyond their ability. Oral comprehension is noticeably stronger than reading comprehension. They have weak vocabulary skills. In the area of written expression, poor writing fluency, I see that over and over again. My students are able to speak, but when I ask them to put it down on paper in structured sentences, they really struggle with that. Unable to compose complete grammatical sentences, difficulty organizing written information, memory skills, weak ability to store and retrieve information efficiently, weak ability to hold information for immediate use, poor problems in reasoning skills, poor problem solving skills, poor inferencing skills, mathematics. I find that word problem solving is that's a major part of my students. They can probably do the computation, but they struggle so much with, working through the comprehension aspects of solving word problems. Difficulty identifying factors and multiples, complex mathematical concepts. They struggle with sequencing. In their oral language skills, articulating thoughts and ideas orally, listening and responding to a series of directions, disorganized recall of facts and details. So the first step is, of course, getting a profile of your learners, and you should do it for every single student. So for, let's say, Tom, all his strengths, weaknesses, and as you compare to your curriculum, how he would respond to each aspect of that curriculum. So, and that helps you to differentiate your instruction on online learning, and it will help you with your groupings as well, how you group students online. I'm not able to interact with you, so I'm not sure what it is that you do online in terms of group, and we probably can talk about it in our question and answer session, but planning will help you to group your students better. Okay, so the assessments and evaluations. The second is planning. So planning and engaging lesson requires effective instructional organization and student management. Having your resources ready will take much of the organization and lost time. So the first thing, as we talked about before, we need to profile the learners and consider differentiated teaching strategies. The setting, background, lighting, noise, and volume and ambience is critical, especially when dealing with students with autism. They are affected sometimes by too bright lights. If you have too much noise in your background, the volume of your voice, from time to time, I know that I'm speaking too loudly because one of my students may cover his or her ears. And so you have to make sure that your background is in keeping with the cognitive needs of your children and their sensory needs, because they're very sensitive and for the input that they get. I know as educators, we're taught to have lots of paraphernalias on all around us, teaching aids and everything, but you have to be mindful that learners, complex learners, sometimes struggle with, they see it as clutter. And if you're behind a board and you have lots of information behind you, it is more destructive than helpful. For me, I introduce one thing at a time in the space. So I'm usually on, as you can see, my blackboard. I'm usually in front of a clean whiteboard, but then I will add whatever teaching aid to the thing or to my camera like that, rather than having everything around me, because it may be a distraction for them. So we have to be mindful of that. As I talked about before, decide if you're going to have a large group or a small group, have your reading materials ready, develop and distribute your visual schedule. So what we did was for every child, and I'm going to show it later on as in a presentation, for every child, they had an individual visual schedule. And this visual schedule will tell them based on time increments where they're supposed to be or where they're supposed to be going. Now, we have a learning management system, as I said, so the children can go there. There are apps there for them to use. There is a place where they can go for course material. And I practice station teaching, so they would rotate through me, rotate to the LMS, and rotate to my teaching assistant. So that schedule tells the children where they're going to be at any point in time. You can simulate that. Maybe you don't have a learning management system, but there are websites that you want them to go and have activities done. You would put that in your schedule. There are a lot of free resources out there that they can do activities. I'm going to be showing you some of that. So you could put that in your schedule and have them rotate to you and come back. And that is how I manage my groups. And this is of course, if they have a caregiver at home. So we talk about the visual schedules, representations, models, and manipulatives for you to gather those. And I'm going to show you some of those. You know, as complex learners, they really need to representations to help them to learn, for them to make connections. So you have to make sure that while you're teaching, you're using a lot of representations, a lot of models, and a lot of manipulatives. And I will do that. I will show that you later on. Visuals, of course, in your learning. As I said, I introduce my visuals one at a time usually, and I have visuals for behavior as well. And I will be showing you that. Token boards and reinforcers, stickers for reinforcers. I have token boards to help the motivation. Children with disabilities, typically, typically aren't as motivated as they're typically developing peers, and sometimes we have to give them that motivation to work or finish an assignment or to learn. So token boards and reinforcers are very, very crucial to making learning stick, or even to hold their attention for learning. In planning, you should develop interactive lessons with click and drag activities and editable graphic organizers, and I will show you that later on in my presentation. All right, so pre-lesson. So I'm not sure how you engage with your children, but I engage with my children through Teams, as we're engaging now. And usually I greet the child, I greet them by name, and I will build some rapport with them. I will ask them questions, how are they doing? What did they eat for breakfast? Did they have a good day? You know, if I see like something on their shirt, I will probably take a few seconds, a minute or two, just to build rapport, put the child at ease. Of course, you will establish and reinforce the meeting norms, the session norms, and I have the visuals for that, reminding the children how they should be for the session. Very important for us to, for every session, to establish the norms. I admit that if I have a child that doesn't need this and I've faded the need for this, that I would not do it at every session, but from time to time I will remind them of the norms. But you will know if you need to fade this. But typically for children, you want to make sure that you establish the norms at the beginning of every session. State the lesson outcomes, what you expect them to learn at the end of the lesson. Very important, is like a roadmap, giving them a visual, you know, of where they're going. Usually a short presentation based on the student, chunk information, short but impactful, and start the lesson with we instead of I. Today, we are going to learn about the sound the letter OA makes. Very important that we do that. All right, so here are some examples. So this is what a visual token board looks like. You know, I would probably write a child's name in it and share my screen and say to them, okay, This is my expectation for you, that you will stay in your area, follow directions the first time, and have fun. And then I would then ask the child, what are you working for today? And typically, you know, the caregiver might have a phone or an iPad or food or something that the child wants that will motivate them. And so I would say, okay, you are working for the phone. Okay. And then, so if you're working for the phone, then after, let's say let's say we're doing mathematical calculations, let's say we're doing additions. I said, okay, after 2 addition questions, I'll give you a star, and then I will fill it up for them. And then, so as you can imagine, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. At 10, the student will get whatever it is that you're working for. And that's one of the ways to keep them motivated. So that's a token board that I use. So this is an example of it. And if I need, let's say if I need them to, you know, complete a problem, read a book, I will give them a token for it. So this would be, I would share my screen with this visual for them about what they're working for. At the beginning of our presentation, I talked about the visual schedule. So this is a visual schedule for one of my children. We start at 8:10. We have morning meeting. I'm going to share more about my morning meeting there. And then my first group, my Blueberry group, will have, so this person will come to me first, right after morning meeting. After he's done with me, he will go to Canvas, and then he will go to iReady on his Clever dashboard. And then he goes to my assistant, and then he will go back to Canvas. Then he comes to me for story time. And then he goes to lunch. I just did the first half of the morning. So this is their visual schedule. So this is what they follow at home. And in their teams, how we set up teams is that they have times on the teams for them to rotate into the teachers. So on their teams, they have a general meeting, and they have their Blueberry group with the time on it. So that's one of the ways. So that increases their independence. So that's what the visual schedule does. It prevents them from having to depend on somebody all the time. They know where to go. And let me tell you, my students with autism, some of them have memorized their schedule, and that's why they're in a tizzy whenever it is that I make any changes, because they memorize their schedule. So they're working from their schedule. They know what to do. It's organized, it's structured, and it takes away confusion. It takes away time lost. And helping virtual learning, of course, to stick. We talk about establishing norms and expectations, like this one. I can just make it bigger for you to see and then put it back. It talks about listening ears, eyes on the teacher, quiet voice, and having a calm body. So that's a sample of one of the norms that you will establish. Some people have actually put them on. So I would share my screen with that, but there are teachers who have actually put them on popsicles, and they would hold up the popsicle with the meeting norms for the students. And of course, there is this one, which is, you know, a little poster, eyes to the front, mouth closed, body still, ears listen, brain focused. Another thing you could do, you can actually print them. So I have some here, you know, for whole group, I will tell them, you know, raise your hand or listening ears, you know, because they're very visual oriented, you know, eyes on the teacher. So those things you can have probably nearby you as well to help with the management of the class. So at the beginning of the lesson, I recommend, I can make this bigger for you. I recommend a visual schedule of what you're going to do in your session. You can use a tick. And so it's an advanced organizer, but as well as it's a checklist for when you're finished doing the various things that you're going to be doing with the child for the session, okay? So as I said, it takes a lot of planning to make it stick. We can't go in there and just wing it. We just have to sit down and think, okay, what we're going to do with the children for this session, and plan it out so we keep them organized. Student with autism, typically, I find that, you know, if they structured and organized, it leads less to behavior and promotes learning. Virtual stickers, and I will give you the websites. You can get virtual stickers. So they can be working for virtual stickers, and there are many types. There are cutesy one like that. There are ones with dinosaurs. I mean, there are all kinds of virtual stickers that you can give them for a lesson well done. And all you have to do is, you know, just put it on whatever work they're finished. So how to increase engagement? I found this, and I think it just speaks just to how it says COVID to one side, and it says communicate, offer, vary, inquire, and determine. So communicating to your parents that their child is valued, thought of, and at the top of your list of priorities is one major first step in building a successful virtual learning foundation. I mean, during this time, I find a lot of my parents are at home. They're worried, you know, they're going through financial issues. They too are working from home, and it's stressful for them as well, this whole situation of virtual learning. And so I have, you know, learned to build a rapport as well with the parents or the caregivers. And I have expressed that I understand the situation. I'm very responsive to, you know, the emotions of the child, the emotions of the parents, what's going on in the home. And I don't try to add to their issues, like making demands at certain times. Offering a reason to show up to online class outside of just academic work will boost your participation, engagement, and ultimately rebuild your sense of climate and community. How I do this, I'm very outgoing. I make it fun. I'm going to, hopefully I have time to show you one of my opening activities. My students look forward to our morning meeting. When we have early release days or days where they won't have morning meeting, I would get texts from parents, what's happening to morning meeting, what's going on, the child is in a, you know, we'll have to, they really miss it because it's such an enjoyable time. So vary instructions, lessons, and assignments to meet a broad range of unique learning styles will increase the likelihood of success among your students. Students who are successful experience more motivation to continue learning. So one of the things that I do is sometimes you start just a little bit lower than what you expect that a child's ability is. And so that encourage the child because they're getting the stickers, they're getting the praise, they're doing well, the failure rate is low, and so they're more motivated, you know. And then you just build on that. You build on, so don't start out with the hard stuff, and so that they're not demotivated or deflated before time. Inquire by asking feedbacks, what is working well, what issues are families currently facing that might not be getting in way of their learning. And so I cannot stress how important it is for you to develop a deep relationship with the caregivers or the parents, because right now in virtual learning, we need them. We are actually practicing through them. So it's very important for us to have a very good relationship with them to have learning stick. Determining which students may need some additional encouragement may just be the difference between half of your students participating and well over 75%, just like the traditional school. How are you going to motivate the unmotivated? And so that's, you know, some things for you to think about. All right, so some resources for you, and I will pass these on to the project team. But one of the major resources that I use is, of course, the UFly Virtual Teacher Resource Hub. There are lots and lots of free resources for you there to make learning interactive. And I hopefully I have the time to show you some of those. Boom Cards is another website. Go Noodle, Flyleaf Publishing, really great reading. There's the adaptive books from Paul V. Sherlock Center on Disabilities, readworks.org, Epic Books, Take Virtual Field Trips, Poll Anywhere, Padlet, Thinking maps, I use a lot of thinking maps and interactive globe, and of course, starfall.com. This list is not exhaustive, and perhaps you have your own list that you probably will share in the question and answer section, but those will help to make your sessions interesting. Some essential tools that I use: thinking maps, touch points, my blending board, or word map. It's not supposed to be word map, word mat, and decodable ebooks. Okay, this is my bubble map. So this is one of the thinking maps. There's about 8 to 12 thinking maps, but this is what's called a bubble map. And you can use it to teach a range of concepts and make it concrete. So like in this case, this is, okay, how many different ways can you represent the number 12? You know, I can ask them verbally, or I can put up my bubble map and show them, you know, put 12 in the center, and these are the different ways that we can represent the number 12. That main idea, we can use that using this with main idea, where we put the main idea in the center, and then in the other circles would be the supporting details. There's a range of ways that you can help. I don't know if you see behind me, we spoke about Martin Luther King, and there's a bubble map here, Dr. Martin Luther King, and then the things around the circles, all the things that the book talked about Dr. Martin Luther King. So I use the bubble map literally almost every day for either math or reading. Another thing that I use a lot is touch points, and I'd spoken about it last year. So touch point math is an effective way for students to learn basic math concepts such as counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, telling time, counting money. You can Google touch math, and the strategies are there. You can get in touch with me. I will, you know, walk you through how to use touch points. So basically what happened, it's like it is a built-in manipulative, and so students count the touch points, they associate numerals with real values. They learn that a numeral 4, for instance, is not just a squiggle on the page, it means something. And so if I need to add them, I have them add 5 plus 4, I will put 5 upon 4 with the touch points, and they will count the dots. So it's like a built-in counter. And if I need them to multiply 2 times 5, I mean, each touch point will no longer be 1, but 2. So 2, 4, 6, 10, 2 times 5 equals 10. And they learn a lot how to multiply through that. This is the word map, blended map. I'm going to go ahead and click on it to show you how it works. But I use this to teach decoding strategies. I use this one as well as the one from UFly. Blending board. If I have time to show the video, and Ms. Sinclair, you can show me. You can tell me if I have a time to show a quick video of one of my students. But let me quickly just, sorry, let me just quickly click on this. All right, let me see if I need to share that to see if the blending board. So for CVC words, this is how the blended board works. So I would say to the child, what sound does letter B make? B. And then if I add the E and the D, what is that word? B. D. B. D. And so here it is that, you know, they're able to blend words right there. Sometimes I actually share my screen with them and give them control. I don't know if your video conferences app has the ability to give the children control, but I will give them control and they will spell words for me as well. So that interactive ability really, you know, helps them to enjoy the session. So that's my blending board. The other thing is decodable books. And this is a picture of it, different decodable books, and this is a free resource. I'm going to also show you a sample of those decodable books and how it works. In fact, this morning, this is the book that we read, and I'm going to show it to you. Frank the fish gets his wish, and the book, it turns like a book, and the children would read for me, and then we will use a bubble map to answer the question, and I can show you that bubble map about what we did this morning after we read that book. So we were dealing with the setting, and here's the bubble map when we discuss the setting for that story. Sometimes I will have the students, sometimes I will have the students fill in the bubble map, but depend on their ability. There's some that are really quick, but there's some for time. I will, probably just fill it out myself. So typically my day starts with a morning meeting, and I do a mindful video from GoNoodle. That's one of my favorite go-to resources. And I'm going to quickly see if I can just show you just an opening activity from GoNoodle that I did this morning. So I start off the first 5 minutes with breathing. We do that every morning, just a few minutes of breathing. And I'm going to go ahead and share one with you from GoNoodle. Of course, this is free. All it needs is your email, and all you just need is an email and a password. And I mean, there's some content that is paid, but there is a lot of content on it. Is free. I'm actually using the free version, and this is what we did this morning. We did rainbow breath.
We can use our bodies to change how we feel. This exercise will teach you how to raise your energy and face your day. Close your eyes or keep them open. Have fun with it. Sit tall. You can be on the ground with your legs crossed or sitting at the front edge of your chair.
Right, and so they will go through that breathing. I will do it as well. So, just breathe right along with them. And they love that. Then we will do a welcome song. I find with children with autism, they're not very interactive, they're not very sociable, so you have to help them every single day to greet each other and how to deal with their emotions. And so we normally do a welcome video because we want to keep them engaged. Of course, with GoNoodle, and I don't, for the interest of time, I don't want to play another video, but you can go and check out GoNoodle. And then we do our interactive morning journal. I can go ahead and quickly show you my morning journal. And what I do with my morning journal, I bring a lot of concepts, math concepts, social studies concepts in there. It's whole group, it's quick. So the students will, of course, the first thing that they will do is to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And you should hear them, they are amazing. It's and then I probably will bring in a concept like, who is this man? This is, because we have Dr. Martin Luther King Day on Monday, there's no school, we talk about that. We talk about him here, but then of course in reading our lesson is going to be about Dr. Martin Luther King. And we go through the month, we go to what was last month, we bring in holidays, what did we celebrate last month? What will we celebrate this next month? And what is today? And then of course I will make them speak, and then I will say, okay, today's Friday. More concepts we get into. Of course, we get to the date, what the year is, and then they will tell me the full day. So we go through what the date is, what the day is, what the year is, and then I will ask them, okay, so say what is the full information for today. We talk about last year. I tell them to go and look on the clock. I said, I choose my words carefully. You can look at an analog clock or a digital clock. Tell me what time it is, and then we will take the time. So I will show them in an analog form and in a digital form. This is on a research wheel of names. I probably won't get the time to tell you about that, but it's a free website. If you want to get the children's names on it, if you want them to take turns, it spins their names and selects a child. Really cool resource. We talk about the weather, of course, the temperature. We go through the temperature every day, and I compare yesterday's date with today's date, and I ask them, is it warmer or colder today based on the temperatures between the 2 days? We talk about the season. At least 3 times a week, we go through the concepts of how many days in a week, month, year, and all of that. This is all morning meeting. This is all in 20 minutes that we do that. We talk about days in school, and the days in school, of course, is a math activity. Yesterday in school were 86 days. How much is 86 plus 1 more? They will say 87. I said, do we add a 10? Do we add a 1? Do we add a 100? And I can share my screen and the children can do it as well. And here's another one. I ask them, I'll have a number of the day, and I'll ask them to model number, share my screen, spin that letter, that word, that name wheel, and a child is selected and they will get to model a number. And this is all in teacher time. I'm teaching so many concepts in the morning meeting. We talk about money and we skip count. So today we skip counted by 2s. I use a highlighter, and then we skip counted by 4s. These complex learners, they do addition and multiplication and division with skip counting. So it's a skill that they must get. So it's a skill that is reinforced every single day, skip counting. And let me go back to my presentation. Of course, as you saw in the child schedule, we have a reading rotation, we have a language arts rotation, we have a math rotation, and then we have a science studies whole group, and then of course dismissal. That's what my day looks like. And Miss Sinclair, you could tell me if I have a time to just show the participants a video of me interacting with one of my students. Could you tell me if I have the time?
Yes, you may go ahead, Mrs. Bailey.
Okay, thank you. I want to now show you just a little session with one of my students. I asked his mom permission, and she said yes. He's a complex learner, of course, and he has very high mathematical skills, but he's struggling with reading. So he read a book from one of the sessions, and I noticed that he was struggling with the OA sounds from the book. So we did a blending board activity afterwards. All right, let me quickly bring that up for you. It's coming up. All right, so it starts with the blending board, the U-Fly blending board, and you guys can check it out. He's at the bottom. Let me just make sure that I activated sound. Sometimes I forgot to do that. Okay, here we go.
As they're looking.
Okay, OA says, what does OA say, Rafa?
Oh.
OA says, O. So if OA says O, what is this word? What is this word?
You read. Rafa. Road. Road. This is me.
Good
Now
job.
this way. So you read.
Good job. All right, your turn, Rafa. If that is OA says O, what is this word? Can you read, please? What's that word?
Found.
Foal. Remember, OA says O, so that's foal. All right, let's do another one. What's this word? I can't find one of my letters. All right. What's this word, Rafa? If OA says O, what's this word?
So.
Soak. Good job. Good job. What about this one? What about this word, Rafa?
Coal.
Coal. Coal. Good job. I won't finish the video in the interest of time. There's another one that was just before this one. When he was reading the book and where I noticed that he was struggling with the, okay, it seems like I posted both of the same thing. But, you know, basically what I saw was he was struggling with the OA word, and so he was struggling with the OA word, so I just went straight ahead and used the blending board and got that going. He is just a good student. He is focused. I faded a lot of the token boards, because when he gets there, he's focused and he's ready to work. You know, his mom is there, she's supporting him, and it's just incredible. I wanted to show you guys him doing some math. If you give me 1 second, let me see if I can find him doing that math. He was so good at doing that math. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see him doing math using a touch math that I spoke about. All right, you're going to do 21 divided by 4. So first you skip count by the divisor up to the dividend.
Go.
Okay, start skip counting.
Skip that by 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
All right. So count up from 20, count by ones from 20 to 21, and make a dot for every time you count a number.
20. What? This is already 20, so this is. Oh no! Okay, so 20. Take out again. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5, and what's the remainder?
How many dots? 1.
Good job. Let's do the next one. All right, so you see him there, division with remainders. In August, when I met the student, he could only add numbers under 10, and using a touch math program, I have him now dividing with partial products, and dividing with partial products, multiplying with partial products, just all of that. So that is how to make virtual learning sticky. It was my pleasure talking with you today. I'm available to answer any questions that you'd like me to answer.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mrs. Bailey. I know the participants will agree when I say that it was a very educational and comprehensive presentation. And let me add to that, they are talking in the chat how informative the session was, and they are raring to go. And so at this time, if we do not have any questions, we are going to end the forum, but I'm hoping that you have at least one question to ask Mrs. Bailey. If you do, you may use the icon that says raise your hand, and I will acknowledge you. So can you go ahead, please? So Mrs. Bailey, while we await the hands, I am seeing here where persons are saying that it was a very insightful presentation. So congratulations on that as well. And they would like the recording, of course, as was previously communicated in the chat. The recording will be available through the Projects and Research Department. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions at this time. And so, Mrs. Bailey, again, on behalf
I see some hands though.
You're seeing some hands? I am unable to see them. Okay. So since you're seeing, let me go ahead and check.
I see Cheddar.
Okay, I am seeing Wright, I'm seeing Saunders. So we are going to take Wright. So go ahead, Miss Wright. You may unmute your microphone and ask your question. Ms. Wright, you may go ahead. You have permission to ask your question. Please unmute your microphone. All right, so while we wait on Ms. Wright to navigate her system, we're going to ask Saunders to go ahead. So Saunders, I am going to ask you to unmute your microphone and ask your question.
She says everyone's microphone is muted.
Good morning.
No, I unmuted her, and that is why I'm saying to her, you have the permission to go ahead. So who is this now?
Indeed, Saunders here.
Yes, go ahead, Saunders.
I want to ask a question. My question is about the blending board. I did not even know that such a thing exists. I want to know if it's available on the Play Store. If not, how can I get it?
I put a link in my presentation for the blending board for you. But you can just go straight ahead to UFLI, that's University of Florida, UFLI, Teacher Resource Hub, and everything is there free of cost for you. You don't have to go to any Play Store. It's right there.
Okay.
Okay, Miss, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Miss Cheddar, go ahead.
Yes.
Unmute your microphone.
Good morning. Yes, I didn't get the first part of the presentation and maybe bits in between. I think it's the same question. We'd love to know where we can access those tools that you have been using. And it was
okay, so it's in my presentation. So when they pass it on, the links are live. So just click on the link and you will get all those tools.
Okay, then, thank you.
Okay, so Wright, I'm coming back to you. Do you have a question? Query for Mrs. Bailey?
Keisha says I'm unable to unmute. Somebody was asking about poor connectivity in Jamaica. Oh, you know what? One of the things that I didn't get to show you guys was some of my click and drag activities that I do. Where the children, I share my screen, give the children control, and they click and drag. So it's very, practical for them. I'm sorry I didn't do that. I'll probably send one of them so you guys can get an idea of what it looks like. I can send it to the projects team. Connectivity, I'm not sure how to relate to that. But what I did over the summer last year, over the spring last year, when a lot of children didn't go online, I actually mailed out packets to them or dropped off packets at their home with work to do based on their needs, or some of the tools that I had in my classroom. I loaned it to parents. Some of the manipulatives I had here, I just delivered it to their homes. I don't know if it's something that you guys are open to doing. So I would just put together packets and just deliver it to their homes with manipulatives and everything like that.
All right, Miss Wright, I can hear you. You have managed to unmute your microphone. Please go ahead with your question.
Wonderful. Good morning again. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
I just have a quick question. Somebody had asked about the blended board, but I wanted to ask about the touch mat. How do we access the touch mat? And is it possible you could share it in the chat, the information that you just gave? Because I was trying to unmute, so I didn't get the information that you just shared. Thank you so much.
Okay, no, touch mat is a very expensive product, but you can actually build your own. So my school district purchases the touch mat program for us. But for you in Jamaica, maybe you have to make them. Can I quickly show them a sample of one that was made?
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Let me quickly show a sample. Just have to get into my files, guys.
All right, while Mrs. Bailey tries to get into her file, I realize that Mr. Jason Williams' hand is up, so you may go ahead with your question in the interim just to save us some time.
Yes,
I know that you have another session at 11, so we want to just expedite this process. Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
It's probably having problems unmuting
as well, right.
I am just going to go and get it to talk to Ms. Wright about the he's not unmuting.
No, he is not. So I'm just waiting until he does.
Okay.
In the event he's having a little bit of problems.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so the feedback form, while you go ahead, I'm just going to say this to you. The feedback form is actually in the chat as we speak, so you may fill out your feedback form. Okay.
All right, so
yes, go ahead, Mr. Peter.
All right, guys, I have it ready now. So this I can share with you. The person who made it, I asked her permission to share it with you as a resource. It's simple. So of course, you will start with the first part of teaching them how to use the touch points. 1 has 1 touch point, 2 has 2 touch points, 1, 2, 3. So that's the first thing. And then you ask them just to touch the touch points to add. And so this is interactive, so they can actually type in the answer. If you share your screen with them, it's interactive, they can type in the answer. And for some kids, what I did was to, if they have mobility issues, they can actually click and drag the answers as well. So there are different types in there. So this, of course, I can share these with them. I can share it to the project because the person who made them for me said I could share them with you free of cost.
Okay. All right, that is all the time that we have to accommodate questions. Thank you so much again, Mrs. Bailey, for joining us today, and we were happy to have you. I hope that you enjoyed the time, just as how we enjoyed the time.
I did, thank you.
Again, the evaluation sheet is in your chat. Have for yourselves a great day and a great afternoon.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.